Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and let's just get into some weird news. Now, 'tis the season, once again, for another holiday. And this time, we're talking about Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is coming up. Whether you celebrate it, whether you don't, that's up to you completely. Me and my husband usually don't. We never really have. It's kind of just one of those things where it's like, why do I need to go out of my way to buy more things? You know, I don't know. But anyway, I was thinking about Valentine's Day, and I was like, why don't we talk about some weird Valentine's Day facts? And let's start out with the traditional passing out of Valentines. So, I mean, each year, especially when you're kids, you get Valentines for your whole class, and you go and you pass them out to your class or whatever, or you pass them out to the ones you love or whatnot, that kind of thing. But this tradition is like 600 years old, the tradition of passing out Valentines. So, apparently the oldest recorded Valentine was a poem that Charles, Duke of Orleans, wrote to his wife when he was imprisoned in the Tower of London in 1415. Now that, my friends, is an old Valentine. I never really thought about how old Valentines were. They were just kind of something we did all the time, especially as kids. I mean, still people give out Valentines to their loved ones or whatnot. My mom will do it sometimes. She'll give us little Valentine's cards. Super cute. Love it. But you don't think about how old something that you're just kind of used to at this point is. That's kind of crazy to me. 600 years old. I mean, come on. So, thanks, I guess, to Charles, Duke of Orleans, who wrote, or Orleans, I'm not sure how you say it, who wrote his wife a nice little Valentine when he was imprisoned in the Tower of London in 1415. Now, that is a very, very old Valentine's. Now, let's talk about more Valentines, and let's talk about the first manufacturer of Valentines. So she became known as the mother of the American Valentine for her artistry and sentiment in her designs. Her name was Esther Howland. It's the beginning of this, and I'm losing my train of thought already. I haven't had enough coffee. I'm working on it. We'll keep on trucking. So we're talking about Mrs. I'm not sure, Howland, who is the mother of the American Valentine. Now, before she commercialized them, American Valentines were less romantic and more on the comedic vibe. But her inspiration came from thoughtful and sweet greeting cards that were circulating around England. So she decided to sell similar designs in the US, and it just skyrocketed. Now, during the 1850s, she earned $100,000 annually, which is insane. Especially for the 1850s, that's like $3 million annually, today. So this lady basically took what they were already doing in England and decided to do it herself, but sell it in the US and became this millionaire. I guess she wouldn't be called a millionaire back in that day, but she was a very wealthy woman in the 1850s because she made these greeting cards more thoughtful and sweet instead of more comedic. And that's really kind of what set the bar for the kind of Valentines that you see nowadays, which is kind of crazy. I always thought that Valentines were just just always, nice and romantic and that kind of thing. So I thought it was really weird to think that at one point all of our Valentines were just these comedic Valentines. I mean, there are still comedic cards for everything nowadays, but it's just kind of interesting that before she came along and introduced this more European style Valentine's card, they were just comedic and nothing else. So, I don't know. I thought that was a little weird. Now, let's move on to more stuff about these greeting cards, these Valentines, and how many are purchased each year. So, we talked about in one of the last ones, birthdays. We talked about birthdays because it was my birthday. I'm a February baby. And we talked about weird birthday facts. And we were talking about how birthday cards are actually the most bought greeting card or holiday card or whatever you want to call it in the US. Like, they're the most bought card, which I'm kind of surprised because I really thought that Valentine's cards were more. But let's talk about how many Valentine's cards, Valentine's greeting cards are actually purchased each year. And I'm talking about in the US alone. Now, this is according to Hallmark. So, according to Hallmark, we're talking about 144 million greeting cards being exchanged industry-wide each year on Valentine's Day in the US alone. I mean, that's a lot of Valentine's cards. That's a lot of cards. I remember buying all they'd have like little packs of the tiny little Valentine's cards, and you'd kind of just, they're super tiny and you just write your name on them or whatever on them and just hand them out. I actually don't know if I've bought like a legitimate Valentine's card for somebody ever, besides those little ones that I used to give out to classmates and stuff. So I was kind of surprised when it was this many Valentine's cards, but at the same time I'm not, because that's probably the most popular Valentine's gift that you can get and give all together. I mean, cards are easy. They're easy, simple. They say what you need and you don't have to think about it. You just got to write your name in it and be like, love you, here's a card, that kind of thing. So they're pretty simple and easy and kind of just, I don't know. They're just easy to give out, easy to find. They're everywhere. And so I can imagine that it is this many, but I'm still kind of surprised that actually birthday cards are more popular than Valentine's cards. So there are more birthday cards going out each year over that 144 million cards that are exchanged for Valentine's Day. So I don't know. Valentines are crazy. They're 600 years old. There are millions purchased. It was a great woman who brought us the Valentine's cards that we have today. I mean, come on. That's a lot. I know that it's not everybody's favorite holiday. I do. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, I'm spending the holiday alone, or I'm going to be sad, or I don't have a Valentine. But honestly, let's think of this as not so much it's a day for you to find your lover, you to do this with your lover, but it's for you to do things with people that you love. It doesn't have to be a lover per se, but it can be anybody that you love. And I kind of just want to push that this entire time because it is kind of a Hallmark holiday if you think about it. Now I'm going to take a quick break before I start just rambling about how I feel about Valentine's Day. And when we come back, we'll talk about some more weird Valentine's Day facts.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about weird Valentine's Day facts. We talked mainly about Valentine's card facts or Valentines facts. I don't know what you call them. But let's move on to some more and let's talk about colors. Now, according to the National Confectioners Association, around 65% of Americans believe that the packaging of Valentine's Day candies and chocolates should be red and pink because people are considering pink and red the colors of love. Now, I want to know your guys' thoughts on this one because I don't know if I feel that red and pink are the colors of love. I want to know your guys' opinions. It hit me up on the social medias. I'm always on the social medias, which is at GSMC_Weird News on Twitter and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page. Always on those. You can find me. Go talk to me. I'm there. But I want to know what you guys think about this because I saw this and I thought it was a little strange, but also not at the same time. Because every time I walk into any sort of store around Valentine's Day, and even before, I mean, it's not even Valentine's Day when I'm recording this yet. It almost is. But I'm walking in and I'm seeing Easter stuff. So I've been seeing Valentine stuff for a hot minute. And everything's pink and red. Now, it kind of makes me a little sick to my stomach in some ways because it's just so much pink and red. But it's been so widely kind of known as these colors of love that it's really taken over the Valentine scene. And I don't know if I feel that pink and red are those colors. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of pink as a color in general. That's just on a personal note, like personal opinion. Love red, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if I see red as like a color of love because it's kind of, I don't know, it's like the color of blood. So I don't know. But let me know your thoughts. Hit me up on the Twitter or the Facebook page at GSMC_Weird News on Twitter and GSMC Weird News on Facebook page. I'm always there. Love to talk to you guys. And also, if you guys don't think it, tell me what colors you think really embody love and if we should change it. But let's move on before I just keep talking about colors. And let's talk about those little candy hearts that everybody knows. The little chalky candy hearts. I still like to eat them. I just love sweets, and those are just pure chalk sugar. So, so I love them, even though they're not very good. But let's talk about where they started and what they originally were. So in 1847, there was a Boston pharmacist named Oliver Chase who invented a medicine that simplified the lozenge production process, resulting in the first candy-making machine. And according to the Oxford Encyclopedia of Food and Drink in America, After identifying an opportunity to revolutionize the candy business, Chase shifted his focus to candy production with Necco wafers. So candy hearts were actually medical lozenges and not your just candy hearts originally. They were lozenges, which makes a lot of sense because they kind of taste like medicine when you get down to it. They do kind of taste like medicine, which is a lot and kind of gross. But it's it makes a lot of sense that candy hearts were originally medical lozenges. Which I thought was weird because I had no idea that they were. I just thought they were little cheap candies that somebody came up with and was like, here you go. Here's some cheap little heart-shaped candies. No, they're not chalk, probably. But apparently they were medical lozenges, which makes so much sense. It really does. But it's kind of cool that they were kind of like this first candy to be made on this first candy making machine in 1847. So I thought that was kind of cool, kind of weird, but it makes so much sense. Now let's talk about how the candies got their iconic shape. And so much later, and it wasn't until like 15 years after the creation of Necco wafers that Chase's brother Oliver Chase, they all sound like people from books that you read in school. They just have those names. But Oliver Chase, Daniel Chase's brother, developed a way to press the words onto the little candy lozenges with like a felt roller pad, which also makes sense, and like vegetable food coloring. So he was using a felt roller pad and vegetable food coloring to stamp words onto these candy lozenges. And the conversation candies officially became heart-shaped in 1902. So it kind of like this progression from lozenge to candy, or even lozenge to, is it still a lozenge? Is it lozenge? We don't know. But like to the candy that we know today, starting from your basic lozenge to, oh, now it's got little words stamped on it. Oh, to now it's heart-shaped. Actually took a lot of time in between it all. So it wasn't all like created at once, which is kind of what you think when you think candy. Oh, they created that and then they were like, oh, we'll put words on it and it's cute and it's a heart. No, this actually took a lot of time in between everything to get to the point that it is today. And apparently Necco says that about 100,000 of them are sold each year. I feel like that number is probably declining at this point because people are not really a fan of our iconic little conversation candies. I know that people make a bunch of different ones now, and they make ones that are like rude or they have funny sayings. There is a dog that is outside of my studio right now. What are you doing? It's not even my dog. And they are just barking. And now my dogs, who are always in the studio with me, are panicking. Oh, this is going to be a doozy of a podcast today, my friends. But let's ignore that and continue on with what we've been talking about this entire time, which is Valentine's Day weirdness. Now, like we were saying, or I was saying, there's always, like they keep making weirder and weirder little candies that people like to do, but nobody really likes to eat them. I mean, I kind of do just because they're like pure sugar, but most people I know don't like the heart-shaped candies. And I feel as though that 100,000 number is slowly dropping throughout the years as time goes on, for Necco at least, who's making the original conversation candies, the heart candies, or what have you. So I do feel like that number is dropping. I want to know if you guys like the heart-shaped candies. I do, but I also like candy corn and all those candies that people don't like because I just love sugar. But let me know on the Twitter or the Facebook at GSMC_weird news on Twitter and the GSMC weird news on Facebook. Oh, now that there's a car alarm going off, I'm going to take a quick break before everything just starts to crumble beneath my feet. And when we come back, we'll talk about some more weird Valentine's Day facts. And there's a dog at my microphone. I'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we found out that I have absolutely terrible soundproofing in my studio. But on a serious note, we were talking about weird Valentine's Weird Valentine's Day facts. There we go. Nailed it. But we talked about those little hearts, the little conversation hearts that everybody likes. And we talked about those. We talked about the little conversation hearts, all about those. Now let's move on to some more weird Valentine's Day facts and talk about the heart shape in general. Now, the heart shape wasn't always a romantic symbol. The heart was once widely believed to be humans' center of memory, where feelings of love were recorded. But we have French and Italian artists from the 14th century to thank for the symbol that we know and love today, as they were the first ones to start using this in their work. So it was the French and the Italians who really kind of coined this heart symbol, but it was in general widely believed to be the center of where the feeling of love was actually recorded, which kind of makes you feel like the heart symbol is a little more special when you think of it that way, instead of it just being your heart, like, oh, I have your heart. This is a little bit more, I guess, symbolic in a way. So it's kind of nice to think of the heart as something a little bit more kind of like that special symbolic place that keeps all your love and your memories of love in it. So I kind of really enjoy that. I thought it was a little strange that I've never heard this before, even though it's an actual thing. So I really enjoy that. If you're hearing popping noises, that is my dog with her Valentine's Day gift, which is a ram horn. And there is no way I can stop her from it. This whole podcast is running off the rails with extra sounds, but we're going to continue on with this chaos of Valentine's Day and move on to our next little fact, some weird fact, which let's talk about Cupid and Venus. So we're going to move on over to our Roman mythology. Now, Cupid is the son of Venus in the Roman mythology. And he's often depicted with bow and arrows to pierce the heart and cast a spell of love. Now, along with Cupid, he also usually has roses. And you can guess from him always having roses that it might be his favorite flower, but actually it's Venus's favorite flower. Now, Venus is the goddess of love, sex, beauty, and fertility. So because of the red rose being her favorite flower, The bud stands for strong romantic feelings. So it's no surprise that this has become one of the most popular flowers in any sort of Valentine's Day bouquet, or just, single red rose that's kind of a thing. So this is kind of the reason why red roses are so popular, is because of Cupid and Venus. Now, I love the idea that Cupid and Venus are the reason for these things that we do, and they're not something that we would think about is the reason for it. You just kind of play it off as being always the same kind of thing. It's just the thing. It's just the thing for Valentine's Day is the roses and the cards with Cupid on it and this and that. But there is a little bit more of a meaning behind it. Now, let's talk about something that's a lot further away from our Roman goddess. And let's talk about money. Now, Americans spend a lot of money on Valentine's Day. Now, let's talk about just how much money that apparently Americans are spending on Valentine's Day. Now, according to a survey by the National Retail Federation, Americans spend $20.7 billion for Valentine's Day in 2019. So, according to this survey, Americans spent about $20.7 billion on Valentine's Day in 2019. And were expected to spend $27.4 billion in 2020. That's a lot of money spent on a loved one, or on Valentine's Day as a whole. And I get it, we all loved our love our loved ones and whatnot. We want to, shower them with gifts. I know I do, but we want to shower them with gifts. We want to shower, everybody we love with gifts. And so I can understand spending money on them, but that's a lot of money. I know, at least for a lot of Valentine's Day things that I've done, including this year, is I make things. And I'm spending less money, but I feel like it's more personally heartfelt because I'm making them. This year, actually yesterday, I made cookies with my mother. We made chocolate chunk salted shortbread cookies. I had to think of the name. It's like salted chocolate chunk shortbread cookies that have like a sugary rim on the outside. I don't know. They're delicious. They don't look the greatest, but they are delicious. And I made those and I put them in a little package and I gave them out because that's the kind of thing that I like. And I give them to people that I like. People that I love, so my friends and, stuff like that. And it always feels a little bit more sincere and more special, I think personally, when it's coming from the heart, if it's handmade and stuff like that. And I've always been that kind of person who will hand make something instead of, instead of going out and buying something. Most of the time it's because I'm not made of money, and most people are not made of money. I'm definitely not made of money. And it's hard to express things on specific days that are known for getting gifts or giving gifts. And it's kind of hard to just go out there and be like, here, I bought you all these things, or I bought all my friends all these things, when you can't afford it. So it's nice to kind of do what you can with what you have and make things for those special people in your life, because it's a little bit more special and a little bit more heartfelt because I took the time, or you took the time and made these cookies. Like, I took a good portion of yesterday to make these cookies, and I did it with my mom, which made it a little bit even more special. And we made these cookies and then we wrapped them up all cute. And then I started giving them out yesterday. And it's the kind of thing like that that makes me happy and gives me joy when I'm giving a gift to a loved one. I've done stuff like this for Christmas and for stuff like that, just because I don't have a lot of money, and I don't want you guys to think that, oh, I should go out and spend all this money on people, but I don't have any money. And that's not the case, and it shouldn't be the case. You should make whatever you like. I like to draw weird pictures and give them as gifts, or, I love to bake, so baking things and giving gifts is great as well. I thought I'd just kind of put that in there, and let's take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk about some more weird Valentine's Day stuff.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about, this entire podcast, we've been talking about weird Valentine's Day facts, and just kind of Valentine's Day facts that you don't really think about. Things that you're not really thinking about. When you think about it, you're like, whoa, that's weird. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but weird. And we talked about Cupid and Venus. We talked about how much money that Americans spend on love, which is, spoiler alert, a lot of money. But also, it shouldn't be a spoiler alert, because why are you starting a podcast at like 30 minutes? Where have you been? Stop now and go back to the beginning. You're missing out on a bunch of cool stuff. But let's move from Cupid and Venus and our heart-shaped conversation candies and all that kind of stuff, and move into my favorite subject of all, chocolate. Now, chocolate is one of my most favorite things in the history of the world. Just love it, can't get enough of it. I don't know, it's just my favorite. But let's talk about chocolate preferences. Now, everybody kind of gets, or like at least in every store you see, is these boxes of assorted chocolates in heart shapes or with bows or whatever that you can give to a loved one. Now, apparently, both men and women prefer to receive chocolate over flowers, and this is according to the National Confectioners Association. The survey also found that chocolate sales represent 75% of or more of Valentine's Day candy purchases. So, a majority of candy that's actually purchased on Valentine's Day is chocolates. Now, this doesn't surprise me, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about those little candy hearts, the conversation hearts, and how they said about 100,000 are bought every year for Valentine's Day, and I said that number's probably low and dropping. And I still think this, and obviously this kind of shows what I'm talking about when I'm saying that most of the candy in general that's purchased on Valentine's Day is actually just chocolate, which I'm fine with. I love to go like at the end of Valentine's Day, after Valentine's Day, when they're starting to get rid of things and they got a bunch of chocolate left and they're like on sale, and I'm like, yes, please, that is for me. But let's move on to more facts before I just start talking about like how much I really like chocolate, which I could probably make a whole podcast on, and you guys would be like, why am I here listening to this? Because it would be weird. But let's move on. Let's talk about how long the chocolate box has been around for. So, in addition to creating arguably the richest, creamiest, and sweetest chocolate on the market, Richard Cadbury, I'm not sure, also introduced the first box of Valentine's Day chocolates in 1868. So that means that these Valentine chocolate boxes have been around for 140 years. Now, I didn't know that it was Cadbury that made the first box of Valentine's Day chocolates. I really didn't think Cadbury as being that. When you think about all the different brands of chocolates that are out there, I honestly doubt that Cadbury, I'm not sure how you say it, but I honestly doubt that they're the first box of chocolates that comes into your mind. The first one that really comes into my mind is, like the one that I see everywhere is Russell Stover, and they do those like no sugar ones, and I'm like, why would I eat this? But they also do, sugar, but they're the ones you see in majority of stores when you go around. But then the one that I think of the most, which is my favorite, is See's Candy. I love See's Candy. It's my favorite, and they make some of the most incredible boxes of chocolates, and obviously they do a lot of Valentine's Day ones, but honestly, I think I get more boxes of chocolates on like from See's on like Christmas than anything else. But apparently 140 years ago, Richard Cadbury, whatever his name is pronounced as, I'm not sure, was the first one to make these boxes. I really had no idea, and I think it's a little strange, but I'm 100% down for it. Cadbury, you're awesome. I love chocolate. It's a legitimate problem. I probably eat chocolate every day. Don't tell my mother. Just kidding, she already knows. Now, let's move on to the standout favorite in every box. Now, we're going back to our National Confectioners Association. And according to them, caramels are the most popular flavor in the chocolate boxes, followed by chocolate-covered nuts, chocolate-filled, cream-filled, and then coconut. Now, that doesn't surprise me, the caramel one at least, being the favorite, because that's the one I'm looking for in every box. That one, or if it's like a See's Candy one that I know there's a marshmallow one in that, that's my favorite. But in majority of boxes, they don't have those like marshmallow ones. So my favorite is the caramel, the chocolate-covered caramel ones. Now, when I read the rest of this list, like in order of what they're supposed to, be the favorite, having first you got your caramels, then you got your chocolate covered nuts, then your chocolate filled, then your cream filled, and then your coconut. I was a little surprised by the rest of this list. I knew that caramels would be the favorite, but it was kind of weird to me that chocolate-covered nuts was the next one. Now, it might be a personal thing. I'm not the biggest nut fan, just in general. I mean, if I eat nuts, they're probably chocolate-covered. But I really don't find that in majority boxes, I like the chocolate-covered nut ones. I mean, this is once again a personal preference, but also when, my husband goes for whatever's in the box or anybody else I see, that's not the one they're usually looking for. So I'm kind of surprised. Oh, fun fact, if you're looking for what's inside, it's usually on the top of the box or on the little paper that comes in the box. Just saying. Don't poke your finger in all the chocolates. I've done that. I'm not gonna lie. I am very guilty of that. But, I thought I'd put that in there. But, honestly, I was kind of surprised, like I said, by the rest of this list, because then it's chocolate-filled, cream-filled, and then coconut. In my world, on this list of these specific ones, I would go caramels, like everybody would apparently, followed by coconut, then probably chocolate filled and then cream filled, or I could kind of switch those because for those, to me, they're just as good. I don't know. That's just my personal preference. Let me know what you guys like the most out of any sort of Valentine's Day box. Let me know. I'm really, really, really curious. I really like I said, those, but let me know. I'm on the Twitter or on the Facebook page at GSMC_Weird News on Twitter and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page. I'm always on those. Let me know your favorite chocolates in the box in order. And it doesn't have to be any of these specific ones. Just tell me your favorites. I mean, I know that my husband's favorites are, like, they're usually not in the box, but he loves those, like, cherry ones with the cherries in them. I'm not the biggest fan, but he loves those, and I know a lot of people who like different ones, and I really want to know if this National Confectioners Association, I guess, poll or what have you, or survey is correct, or if it's not. I don't know. Just let me know. Now I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, let's talk about some more weird Valentine's Day stuff.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about weird Valentine's Day facts and stuff like that. Just weird stuff about Valentine's Day. And let's continue on that train. We just talked about chocolates. My favorite of all the things. We talked about chocolates. We talked about our favorite chalk candy. Just kidding, the conversation hearts. And some other stuff about money, how much we're spending. And let's move on to experience gifts. Now, this one I thought was pretty strange. Now, apparently, in 2017, 40% of consumers told the National Retail Federation that they wanted an experience gift for Valentine's Day. And that means kind of like an event gift or an outdoor activity or an evening out or tickets to something or a concert or something along those lines. So apparently 40% of people wanted that experience type of gift, whereas, you know, I instead of just chocolates or a heartfelt, I don't know, letter or something like that, people want an experience gifts. But apparently only 24% of people plan to give one. So there's 40% of people who want one, but only 24% are planning to give one. So it's kind of interesting. This gift option is apparently most popular with millennials. 45% of people ages 18 to 24 and 40% of people ages 25 to 34 said that they planned to give these experience gifts. I don't know. Like, I understand loving an experience. I understand wanting to have an experience and make it special and go do something and stuff like that. But I also feel like if you're wanting this, you're asking a lot. I don't know. That's just personal. I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys want an experience gift for Valentine's Day? If you could pick, would you really want an experience gift for Valentine's Day? Or would you take whatever your loved one is deciding to give you? I'm just curious. Let me know. Once again, Twitter at GSMC_Weird News and Facebook GSMC Weird News. Let me know. I'm always on those. I want to know if you guys really think that experience gifts are the best gifts. I don't know if they are. But they might be. I mean, it can be a really fun time if you go do an experience gift, but also keep in mind that sometimes the littlest things are the most important. Little things, like the cookies that I made. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, my cookies are better than an experience gift. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a miracle baker here, even though I really wish I was. But I just want to know, because I thought this was really weird. I didn't even think of the idea of experience gifts in general. It's just not something that's like going through my mind like, oh, Valentine's Day, take me to a concert, please. Or, oh, Valentine's Day, let's go to an event or go hiking or something like that. That's just kind of not what I'm thinking in general, and it's probably not what majority of you guys are thinking, but it's kind of a nice shift of things if you think about it. But I'm kind of curious on what you guys think about this, so let me know. Now, let's move on to something I kind of talked about in the beginning, which is skipping Valentine's Day. I told you guys in the beginning of this podcast that me and my husband usually just kind of skip it. If we do anything, it's like a few days after or something like that, because it's way too hard to actually, plan for Valentine's Day, because you got to plan like a month in advance. If you want to get a table on Valentine's Day anywhere, if you want to do any sort of thing like that, it's really hard to kind of get that going and get some sort of Valentine's Day thing going on Valentine's Day. So usually if we do something, we like go to dinner like days after Valentine's Day, and then we just kind of blame it on Valentine's Day, even though we just kind of want to go to dinner. I don't know, that's just us. But apparently only 3 in 10 adults are not celebrating this day of love. But they might treat themselves or go out with friends and family. And like I said too earlier, that I think it's more important to just kind of say, I love you to everybody. It doesn't have to be just a significant other. And if you don't have a significant other, that shouldn't matter. It should be to your parents, to your friends, to your family, to your sister, to your brother, to whoever, to your animals, which is a great segue into our next one, which is Valentine's Day is not just for humans. People really do love their pets, and apparently 27% of people that are celebrating Valentine's Day in 2020 said that they're also buying gifts for their pets, which I'm not surprised about. Like I had said earlier, when you heard little popping noises, it was one of my dogs who was chewing on their Valentine's Day gift, which we got them mostly to keep them off the new couch, I'm not gonna lie. But also as a Valentine's Day gift, and they are ram horns for them to chew on. And it's just kind of saying, once again, just saying, I love you to somebody that I love, not having to be a significant other. And apparently on Valentine's Day, though, gifts for pets are known to grow significantly, going from $450 million in 2010 to more than $1.7 billion. That's a lot of money spent on pets' Valentine's Day gifts. But I get it. If you love somebody and you really want to buy them something and show them something, then why not? That's just kind of where I'm going with this. Now let's move on to another holiday. It's Valentine's Day, but it's not. This I'm talking about is Galentine's Day. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have watched Parks and Recreation, which is one of my absolutely favorite TV shows ever. It's my version of The Office. But this hit in about 2010, and they did Galentine's Day, which is a made-up holiday in the show. And according to, once again, our National Retail Federation, since 2010, spending on Valentine's Day gifts for friends has tripled, going from $737 million to a whopping $2.1 billion, which is kind of what I'm pushing here without trying to push you to do anything, which is Valentine's Day is not just for your loved one. It can be for everybody you love. And Galentine's Day is to love your friends, and it was especially your gals, hence Galentine's Day. But it's a holiday that goes along with Valentine's Day. It's like the same thing, but it's kind of to more express I love you to your friends. And that's kind of, I guess, how I treat Valentine's Day in general, is just a big I love you to all of my friends, and I care about you, and you guys are freaking awesome. And I really think that's kind of important in general to do. So Galentine's Day is all up my alley. If you haven't watched Parks and Rec, like, go watch it. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix right now, and it is the best. And it'll explain Valentine's Day a little bit better than I've explained it here. But it really is, Valentine's Day is just to celebrate your gals or your friends or your pals, and express how much you love them, just as you would for a significant other. And I think that's really special in one way or another. I love it, and that's just kind of what I've been trying to get across, I guess. Now let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about some weird Valentine's Day gifts that you can buy.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break in this entire podcast, we've been talking about weird Valentine's Day stuff. Now, we talked mainly about weird Valentine's Day facts, and now I want to take it on over to weird Valentine's Day gifts. Now, there's one specific gift that sparked this idea for me, and I actually kind of really want it, and they are replica chocolate organs. So, I know that sounds kind of gross, but they're like replicas of actual hearts and whatnot, but they're made out of chocolate, but they look like real human hearts and stuff like that. I don't know. I like creepy stuff, and that's kind of one of those things that I'm like, yes, please. But I thought, what other weird gifts that could I get or give for Valentine's Day? So let's start off with controlling your spouse talking remote. Yes, you heard me correctly. Now, these are remotes for Control Your Man or Control Your Woman is what they're called. They're both $19, and they have buttons on them that have, that talk. They talk when you press the buttons, and they say different things like, for Control Your Man, must have chocolate, or for Control Your Woman, the king speaketh, or I am what I am, or stuff like that, kind of like funny things. And I just thought this was real strange. Not something that I would enjoy getting, but something that's possible to get out there. And let's move on to another one. Now, this one I've seen before, and it's just the weirdest thing. This is called the Fundies, or underwear built for two. So it's a pair of underwear that you can squeeze two people in. And I think this is more of a gag gift than anything. It's pretty funny. Fundies, the underwear built for two. I don't know. Fundies will set you back $18.94. But then you can have one pair of underwear that you can fit two people in. Just saying, that's a thing that's out there. Now, let's move on to another set of underwear that I found. This one is a doozy. This is beef jerky edible underwear. Yeah, exactly what it sounds like. So, apparently, you're supposed to make your own beef jerky. And it's not something that you can buy, but you can make it. And it says the beef making process has 3 distinct steps. The first is seasoning some ground beef and creating your own sheets of soon-to-be pants jerky. Next, you carve your meat sheets into distinct sections using a brief template, adjusting for sizing. And then lastly, and this is the genius part, hook it all together with Slim Jim string, at which point you have a delicious pair of undergarments. Your Slim Jim will be stoked to step into. I'm not even joking. This is a thing. I'm going to see if I can't get the picture of this to put on the Twitter at GSMC_Weird News, and probably on the Facebook page, GSMC Weird News on Facebook as well, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. This is real. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but let's move on to toilet paper full of love. Now, this is toilet paper that on it has hearts, and in nice cursive red lettering it says, "I love you from top to bottom." So every time that your Valentine's Day your Valentine uses this toilet paper, he or she will remember you. It's very weird, and this toilet paper full of love will set you back $15.62. I'm not joking. This is a real thing. But I've seen this kind of thing before where they'll put president faces or dominant celebrities' faces on toilet paper that you can use, and other things like that on toilet paper. So I'm not surprised that this is a thing, but I doubt it's going to be your top quality toilet paper in general, even though it should be if it's going to set you back $15.62. Now let's move on to a classic item that you can get, which is a teddy bear for your significant other. But this teddy bear is a little bit different. This teddy bear has a t-shirt on that has a message on it that says, "I love you with all my butt. I would say my heart, but my butt is bigger." This is real. And this you can get for a whopping $21.99. You can get your toilet paper of love for a lot cheaper than that, let me tell you. Now let's move on to something else that's a little romantic, and this is candles. Now everybody loves a romantic candle, but I actually really like this one. This one has a note on it that says, "My love is like a candle. Forget me and I'll burn your house down." I love this. Now, this will set you back about $12 plus, and they come in different sizes, and that's why they can change price here. And they also come in 11 different scents. So you can have a nice little message candle telling them that love is like a candle for that'll only set you back about $12. I love this candle. I think it's hilarious. This is something that I would get for somebody just because it's kind of absolutely great. But let's move on to another on the more unsettling side. So if you've ever seen or watched King of the Hill, which love King of the Hill, can't not love it, love it. There is I think it's episode 3 in season 5. There is a Valentine's Day episode where Hank builds a coffin for himself and Peggy as a sort of thinking about the future gift. And fun fact, you can buy one of these. You can buy a romantic gesture coffin, a Hank Hill level romantic gesture coffin on Amazon that'll only set you back about $599. So around $600 this is going to set you back. Now, I think this is hilarious and kind of adorable at the same time, but also a little morbid. To each their own. I've seen this episode. I know this episode really well. I love King of the Hill, and if you do too, then you've probably seen exactly what I'm talking about. And I think this is just one of the funnier things that you could do for yourself and a significant other, or just your significant other, or what have you. Now, if you want to make it a little bit more sentimental, you could build the coffin yourself, just like Hank did in the show. Maybe this is probably more for the King of the Hill fans out there, and not so much for somebody who you're just like, "Oh, you gave me a coffin. Thanks." this is the thing that you could get. I just thought I'd kind of bring you these weird gifts that you could get. They're things that you can actually buy or actually make or what have you, for a significant other or whoever, probably more for significant others in a lot of these, but I thought this would be kind of fun to talk about. And I want to thank you guys like so much for listening to me, sitting down or doing whatever you do while listening to a podcast. But seriously, thank you so much for listening. You're fantastic. Hit me up on the @GSMC_Weird News Twitter page and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page. I'm always there. I love to hear from you guys. And once again, I want to thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Weird News podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and I will talk to you in the next.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.